Back on the SportsMax zone, New Zealand and Australia will lock horns in the grand final of the ICC T20 World Cup on Sunday in the UAE. The Kiwis reached their first ever World T20 final after beating England by 5 wickets with 6 balls to spare in semi-final 1. Now, Australia looked beaten at one point in semi-final 2 but rallied in trademark fashion to overcome Pakistan and reach their second T20 World Cup final. New Zealand will be without in-form batsman Devon Conway, who suffered a freak injury in that semi-final win over England. After being dismissed for 46, the 30-year-old punched his bat in frustration as he left the crease, a blow which broke his right hand. Both teams have met only once before in T20 World Cup history, with the Aussies taking the spoils on that occasion. So one of these two teams will lift their first ever T20 World title on Sunday, and to get a sense of which is better equipped to do it, we are joined by international commentator Fazeer Mohammed. Faz, who is better equipped here? The Aussies have won World 50 over titles. They have been World Test champions on the books, but this is one that has eluded them. Can they make things right here?
They can, because I think Australia is such a competitive, not just a cricketing nation, but a sporting nation. And as we saw in that match against Pakistan, it was all about supporting Pakistan, huge support in Dubai. Pakistan didn't help their cause with the drop catches and so on, but it's just that belief that Australia have. And of course, they met in the 50 over World Cup final in Melbourne in 2015, and Mitchell Starc, when he got that wicket of Brendan McCullum in the very first over of the match, he virtually ended it as a contest. You can expect that Australia, with that hard-nosed sort of attitude, will be looking to have an early strike, whether it is with the bat or with the ball. But New Zealand are made of far sterner stuff. And I think for many, many years, we've discounted New Zealand, but not anymore. They've been to 2 World Cup finals. They were very unlucky to lose to England in 2019. They are the World Test champions. They've made it through to the final of this tournament, beating the form team England. And even with the loss, as you mentioned, of Devon Conway, they've got so much quality in reserve. Tim Seifert would appear to be the obvious option to replace Conway. And you just get the feeling that, of course, there'll be tremendous sentiment on the side of the Black Caps of New Zealand. But I think they have the quality as well and the character to get the better of Australia this time around.
Yeah, and the psyche of this New Zealand-Australia battle, Faz, because we know there's a lot of acrimony between these two teams, and I guess we have to say that the New Zealanders would prevail over the Aussies in rugby. But as a sporting contest, the Aussies are very proud people, and they hate more than anything to lose to New Zealand. Is that something that impacts on this matchup?
It does so very much, because New Zealand, historically, cricket-wise, were treated very badly by Australia, in the same way that the West Indies and in our pomp treated minor nations very, very badly as well. And the New Zealanders still have that stuck up their craw, that they resent the fact that they are seen as the lesser cousins across the Tasman. And yes, in rugby it's a different story, but in cricket, over these many years, whether it's in test match cricket or one-day internationals, Australia have always given off the attitude that, look, we really don't care to play against you because you're not really of the caliber and all of that. Now, of course, things have changed significantly, but that resentment remains, if not so much with Kane Williamson and company, because I don't think they're preoccupied with those things, but certainly with the New Zealand public. You talk to the New Zealanders, you talk to Brian Waddle, the well-known radio commentator, and they always bring up the fact that they've been treated so badly by Australia for so many years that it's about time that the Kangaroos get their comeuppance from the Kiwis. Whether it's time, we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, Faz. You done, Lance?
Yes.
All right. So now that Lance is finished, my question to you, how important will it be for the team that wins the toss? Because based on patterns and trends, we've seen that the chasing team, they have been the one to go on and win the matches.
Well, I think it won't matter all that much because you're talking about quality teams here. Because I don't get the sense that either team will be panicking about whether they have to bat first and set a target or vice versa. but because they have that confidence about them. They believe in themselves. They believe that their batters, they can get a total, and their bowling is of such a quality that they can defend whatever that total is. And therefore, I would be very surprised. They are placing all their eggs in the basket of winning the toss and putting the opposition in, because it's 50-50. Anything can happen. And as a result of that, because they've got the quality and they've got the temperament, very importantly, because one of the issues with Pakistan is that you could see them panicking. You could sense them panicking from 5,000 miles away when they've got victory in their sights and they're being put under a bit of pressure. Australia and New Zealand are a bit different. Not that they won't feel the pressure, because it's a global final.
Yeah.
And New Zealand, apart from 2000 when they won the Champions Trophy with Chris Cairns being their star performer in Nairobi in Kenya, they've never really had that opportunity in the modern era to claim a big prize. So there will be nerves, there will be anxiety, but I don't think we'll be too bothered as to who bats first or bowls first.
Yeah, you know, people love to throw around the saying you can't change a winning team, or you shouldn't change a winning team. New Zealand wouldn't have a choice with Devon Conway now out. But Australia, Aaron Finch, do you see him going with the same 11 that, of course, beat Pakistan?
I don't think either team is hamstrung by the idea of not changing a winning team, because they will recognize whatever the circumstances are. Because remember, one semi-final, the first one featuring the New Zealanders, that was played in Abu Dhabi. This final is going to be played in Dubai, where Australia played just a couple of days ago. Whether that will give them a bit of an advantage, whether they're familiar with the conditions and will retain an unchanged team, that remains to be seen. A lot of it will have to do not just with the conditions, but you don't expect it to change all that much. It's the desert, of course, in the United Arab Emirates. So there won't be all of the variables of weather in other parts of the cricketing world. But it may be depending on who they are coming up against in the shape of New Zealand, whether they will look at different options, whether they will consider maybe an additional seaming option. But really, I think both teams have that really good settled look about it. And as you mentioned, Devon Conway is the only real change that you might anticipate for the Black Caps, because it's a decision forced onto them. But maybe the tactics might... The personnel, I don't really expect to see too many changes there.
All right, we're going to leave it here, Faz, but who wins before you go?
I go with New Zealand. I go with New Zealand, not just from a sentimental point of view, but I think there's a tremendous steel and resolve in the New Zealand team right now. I go with New Zealand.
Yeah. All right, Faz, we'll talk to you on Monday, probably.
Take care.
Okay, so the Aussies in their second final. The last and only time they played a T20 final was back in 2010 when the English beat them easily. George and Mariah, who wins here?
Australia.
Australia?
New Zealand for me.
Wow.
What about you?
Well, Australia is my team, so I want Australia to win, but I'm definitely afraid of New Zealand.
Not
You
afraid of
should
New
be.
Zealand.
Yeah.
Easy win. Simple.
Go to break.